This video is all about the upcoming, much anticipated Sony a7R V. We've got a pair of new leaked specifications on this camera. One of them is actually a validation over a previous one. And yes, it has been triple validated. Will this be enough to put you over the edge? Details coming up. But first, I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so you're kept informed on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. Last week, Sony Alpha Rumors released some triple validated specs for the Sony a7R V, and one of them was the in-body image stabilization. Andrea said it's capable of 8 stops, although he did pause to say he wasn't sure if that was the body alone or the body with a lens. 8 stops without digital stabilization is a very high number. While cameras like the Canon R5 can achieve 8 stops of stabilization, it's in combination with a lens that has its own internal stabilization. Most full-frame cameras can't go above 5 or 5.5 stops. Today, Sony Alpha Rumors was able to once again triple confirm, validate from multiple known sources a few more capabilities of the Sony a7R V. And the first one, as you've guessed, is that 8 stops of image stabilization. The Sony a7R V has internal image stabilization capable of 8 stops. That's staggering. That's without any sort of digital stabilization. 8 stops for the body alone. Add on a lens and who knows how many more stops it can go. Could it go to 9, 10, or even 11? 8 stops of image stabilization is huge. I remember trying out the a7 III. The image stabilization in that camera was nice, but it wasn't enough that you could really walk or do anything with it. I think today one of the best cameras for image stabilization is the GH series of cameras, the GH6, the GH5. You can pretty well walk, let alone run with this camera and still produce pretty stable footage. 8 stops of image stabilization in the a7R V? Wow. How many people out there would buy this camera with that feature alone? Is that you? Would this put you over the edge, having 8 stops of image stabilization in the body alone, and then maybe another stop or 3 with a lens? I wonder what kind of science Sony is using inside the a7R V to be able to deliver 8 stops of image stabilization. It's truly impressive. I really do like cinematic smooth video. And of course, if you're shooting stills, when you're shooting in low light, having a camera that has a really good internal image stabilization system, well, it allows you to get the exposure. It allows you to get the shot nailed perfectly without greatly increasing the shutter time. 8 stops of image stabilization. I'm pretty impressed. The camera that I'm shooting with is the Canon R5, and I think it has around 5 or 5.5 stops, but it can go up to 8 stops with the right lens. And sadly, because it's a full-frame sensor, it's not good enough for me to be able to walk or run with it unless I'm doing heel to toe and I'm moving very slowly. 8 stops in the body, plus another couple of stops from a lens that supports internal stabilization of the lens itself. That's a pretty big deal. I'm pretty excited by this. Okay, so moving along now, one other specification that we have that has also been triple validated by Sony Alpha Rumors is the LCD. We're not going to be talking about resolution. We're not going to be talking about touch sensitivity. In fact, the specification that we're going to be talking about here, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. This is one of those things that people either love or hate, and judging by the trend of new cameras coming out, more people love it than hate it. But I've had a few people that said, you know what, I'm not buying this camera because this feature, and that is the Sony a7R V is going to have, are you ready for this? A fully articulating screen. That's right, it's going to have a fully articulating screen. We're seeing this in all cameras now, not just the low-end entry-level cameras like the a7 IV. Okay, that's not so much entry-level. Use an example of the Canon R10, for example. That's an under $1,000 camera. But we're also seeing it in cameras like the Canon EOS R5, almost $4,000, and the Nikon Z9, $5,500. A fully articulating flip screen is now something that is considered, well, normal. And I personally love this feature because, well, I'm old. And when you're old, you don't want to get down on the ground, you don't want to be wrenching your back, and the ability to just tilt that screen and move the camera and see if you're getting your shot or not, I find that very useful. I really like that technology. But what do you think? Is this something that you really like? If you have the Sony a7R IV, what do you think about these specs? These ones here, all the ones that I've got right here, have been triple validated by Andrea at Sony Alpha Rumors. And this list is growing every week. The announcement is coming up on October the 26th at 3 p.m. London time. So I assume it's going to be announced in London, and that works out to be around 10 a.m. Toronto and New York time. There have been an awful lot of other specs out there that have said we're going to get 9.6K oversampled 4K, 9.6K oversampled 8K, some really incredible video specifications and still specifications, but then left out BSI and stacked. It's still unsure of whether this camera is going to have a BSI or stacked sensor, but all the ones that we have here have been triple validated by Andrea, the owner and editorial director of Sony Alpha Rumors. And what that means is he's talked to several known and trusted sources. So yeah, this is looking pretty exciting, and we'll probably get some more leaked specifications leading up to the announcement on October the 26th. So if you want to stay up to date on all the great stuff that's coming out on the R5, well, the A7R5, I'm starting to shorten it to the R5, but it's a little confusing. We get that mixed up with the Canon R5, isn't it? But as more information comes out, I'm going to publish a video. Even if it's only a short video, I'll publish all the information, get it out there, so that way you can be the first to know. And if you do want to be the first to know on the R5, I was going to say Canon R5, on the A7R5, go ahead and subscribe, but make sure you choose all notifications. And by choosing all notifications, as soon as I publish a new video like this one here on the A7R5 or the latest triple validated specs, you'll get notified by YouTube, so you can be the first to know the latest news and rumors on the A7R5. This is going to save you an awful lot of time. You're not going to have to check all those Twitter feeds, RSS feeds, all your favorite websites and YouTube channels right here, all the latest information on the Sony a7R5. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon, and stay safe.